Welcome everybody to the Marketing Mindset Mastery um, podcast. Sorry, I just wanted to give you a quick little rundown. We were having some tech gremlins today, so we just have to do a pre-recording today and then post it afterwards. And I just apologize for that inconvenience. The joys of learning new software tech. You gotta love it. So anyway, Plinny is unable to had a scheduling conflict, so is unable to. Plinny Phoenix, my co-host, is unable to join us today. So I am flying solo with our guest, who is actually Gabrielle Cardona, and she's a wonderful. She studies so many things. I think she's MBTI certified, has studied sociology, physiology, and theology, and probably a whole lot more than I don't know. So anyway, she has a great personality and it's going to be fun to have on our show, giving you some really great tips today. So you don't want to miss the show. So, but before we bring up our show, Gabriella Cardona, then let's first share the top 5 tips or 3 tips of the week. So I'm going to do something about video tips, specifically on webinars, since I do Zoom webinars a lot, which is why we're pre-recording it on Zoom and then uploading it to Be Live TV today, because let's face it, gremlins happen, right? So in order to make your videos be more professional and pop, here are some suggestions, and I'm going to give you the top 3 tips that I've been actually sharing with both my clients the last 4 years, my business students for the last year. I have a business academy too. And then on top of that, I've been working on helping some friends with some summits and making sure that we work um, with all of our guests for the summit. So I'm always talking about these main 3 things, which is 1, video and videos. Make sure that you have your background all nice and presentable. I have a real background. It's great to have one of those screen ones in certain instances, like when you're doing your training or something, or discovery calls are fine. But I'll be honest, when you're doing it for a summit or a bigger, larger audience, like even a podcast, don't use video backgrounds because the images can be distorting you and how you look. And we want to see the whole you. So there you go. So be cognizant about when is a good time to use the video backgrounds for like all those different ones, screens and stuff like that. And a real background is necessary. And you can also use the option to blur it, but I'll be honest, make sure whatever you use doesn't distract from you and your focus on your they want to you want the audience to focus on you and not your background. So make sure that you keep that in mind when you do that. Also, sound is extremely important. Make sure your sound's connected to the software you're using, because oh my gosh, you can have sound gremlins really easily, and I call that and that's my story. I'm gonna stick to it. And then lighting is crucial. Make sure you don't have shadows on your face. Make sure you're looking, you're seeing they're seeing all of you. It's like having a spotlight on you, and make sure that you don't have a lot of background lighting. So even doing something like putting cork boards in front of a window will help reduce some of those lighting issues and so forth like that. So hopefully that gives you some quick tips. Um, Really, it's all about how you present yourself. And I'm going to make one little bonus tip, and that is look at the camera when you're doing video. Oh my gosh, back to point 1, video background's great, but don't forget to look at the camera, because it's like looking at your audience. Remember I don't know if anyone took voice acting or stage acting or anything kind of acting lessons when you were in school. I mean, it doesn't matter how old you were. So one of the things they always said, you have to be able to pay attention to your audience. Never turn your back on your audience. Always face forward. Always connect with them on the video because you want to be able to see, they want to be able to see that you're connecting with them as a real human. So those are my 3 tips, all about video, sound, and lighting. I know Pliny talks a lot about the voice because that's important too, and she talks some great tips about that. And she'll probably have more for you next week. But I wanted to get some of the, like when you're doing like webinars or conferences or even podcasts or even those training videos for, when you for your courses. Um, Whatever you do, when you're showing up in video, really remember your video background as well as how you look at the camera, because you really need to pay attention to your audience. You need to be able to, in order to engage with the audience, you need to be present in the moment and focus on your audience. And that camera is your audience. Whether you realize it or not, you are dealing with an audience, whether you see them or not. Okay. And then you also have to pay attention to your sound and your lights because you want to have the spotlight on you because you are center stage on the camera. So just look at it as a smaller stage. So anyway, that's my 3 top tips for today. And Pliny will be back next week. We are working out some things. Like I said, we're going to be changing the time a little bit because next week we're doing daylight savings time. So we're going to be like an hour. We're going to be adding an hour to our calendar. So we might be an hour later than what we normally start. So just keep that in mind for next week. So if you're looking at us for 11 o'clock time, we're still going to be around 11 o'clock. It's just going to be pushed back a little bit. So with that said, welcome back to the Marketing Mindset Mastery Radio Show with your host, Marie Mason, and our lovely and talented co-host, Plinny Phoenix, will be back next week. She has had a scheduling conflict. So our guest today is Gabriella Cardona, and she has studied psychology, sociology, theology, and has an MBTI and is MBTI certified. And through my experience, through her experience, she has learned when you understand yourself and the people around you, then you know what to say and can be more successful. So she's extremely passionate about watching people succeed. And oh my gosh, she's so much fun to work with. So please buckle up. Let's get ready to discuss the topic of defining your success in regards to relationships, because the key to success is in relationships. And I'll give you my take on that real quick. The best way to grow a business is building real, authentic relationships. And Gabriella Cardona is going to teach us a few tips on that today. So take it away, Gabriella. Let's bring you down and get you rolling on the show. So let me add you on. So come on down. How are you doing, Gabrielle?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Were you able to hear me at all during in the back?
Not at all.
Okay. So if you had looked in our notes, you'll see I just introduced you just like we did in the notes. So and about your background and how we're going to be defining your success in regards to relationships and how building authentic relationships is the best way to grow your business. Agree
Absolutely.
or disagree? Okay.
Absolutely.
So I was spot on with that. Okay. So good to know that. So I know that we mentioned on here that you're passionate about helping people succeed, but I wanted to ask you, what does that look like to you? What is success? What is your definition of success when you're helping someone succeed?
It's helping them find personal happiness by really fulfilling their potential. Everybody has the capacity to do something in an amazing way. They have a natural gift, an inclination towards something. And when they have done something that has made the world a better quality place by being their authentic, true self, that has not only a beautiful effect, but it's from a pure cause. That means everybody wins. And when everybody wins, everybody's happy. Success is happiness that creates peace in everybody and everything around you.
Beautiful. No, well put. And a lot of it, everybody's definition of success is a little different, but at the same time, you just got to be true to yourself in the long and short of it, right?
Yeah,
So,
and
yeah,
creating happiness, believe it or not, everybody does genuinely want to give to someone else. So there's more joy in giving when someone else has taken what you've given them and said, wow, who you are has made me a better person. People want to continue to give that quality of gift to everybody who will accept it from them.
exactly. And that's so point, and that's a perfect point for like, especially when you're in business for yourself, whether
Yeah.
you're a coach, a speaker, an entrepreneur who does freelance work, like virtual assistant kind of work. It doesn't matter what your industry is in. Um, you have got to really just build on that passion of yours and just make it and,
Passion,
and
yes.
make sure that it shines through, because whatever you're excited about and whatever and whatever and if you're able to help somebody like you were saying earlier and help them succeed at something or help them give them that aha moment, um or you add value in some way, even on just a short call. Like you and I had a call together a couple times, and each time we added value, right? That's why you're on the show, because we made
Great.
that connection. We got that, developed that relationship. And a lot of it is the secret is people are going to remember about 1/10 of what you tell them, but they're going to walk away with the feeling that they give them and the
Every
impression,
every
right?
time. Yeah.
I have had people I talked to a year ago and they come back and say, I remember that feeling we had when we talked about,
Yes.
can't remember half the things of what we said, which is good because I probably revised about 50% of what I was doing anyway, because we all make those pivots, right, in our
Of
business.
course.
So
Of course.
it's a good thing they don't remember everything. Though I know some that people that remember things like everything that you say from like 20 years ago and repeat it back to you. And we're like, how on earth can your brain do that? But anyway, I'm lucky to remember where I put something. But anyway, that's a different story. But no, but the point is that, you really just have to connect with people on a really authentic way.
Authentically, yeah.
Yeah, and you'll be fine. And I think that's what we're going to dive into. So what I mean, I know we talked about um a little bit about what success looks like to you, but I think we talked about it, and but I think what we're going to do is a little deeper dive on that topic, if that's
Yeah,
okay. So,
definitely.
because you have some really good points on how to define success, right?
Right.
So, I would love for you to get into a deep dive, like not
Okay.
just for you specifically, but what it is, what is it that
Everybody.
everybody, what's a good like definition of how we can define success for ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And it really I know that it sounds kind of cliche, but it's true. One of the best things my father ever taught me, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yep.
What I had to learn as a very young girl, because my personality, I don't like people naturally. My father had to help me appreciate the inherent value of individuals and society as a whole. The sum is much greater than the total of its parts. When we come together, we're exponentially better. You have to get to know people. You have to take the time to spend time and to take note of what they are naturally. Everybody has a personality. Now, some people are resistant to learning about personalities because if you're not healthy about the way you do it, yes, you can stereotype people. Yes, you can write off things that you never took the time to learn about. Yes, you could make a mistake and respond in an ineffective way. But if you do it with good intentions and you really do take the time to think about what you're learning about people, you will know and say, look, there's a room full of 20 people. If I have some particular need, I'm going to go to this person and say, hey, you know what? I have a need. First of all, I'm being vulnerable to you. That is disarming to people. You are sharing your humanity with them. And that makes them say, absolutely. I don't even know who you are. But if you need me, you're telling me I'm valuable to you. When you go to that person and say, this is specifically what I need, would you be willing to share with me in that experience? They would say, you know what? I happen to have a personal abundance of it because that's my dominant function. They won't say those words because they don't know that that's what it is. They'll just think that they're gifted in that thing.
Yeah.
And that's the key, going to different people and saying, I appreciate your natural gift, and what you have and what you are is going to make my life better. But that means that I've taken the time to even figure out who and what you are, because you are important to me. I value you as a soul. And then I appreciate you as a personality. And then I need you. And I'm disarming enough to say, I actually have a need, and you're the one that can fulfill it. That creates a synergy. Synergy is the energy that happens when people come together, because one person alone can do, let's say, 5 things. Another person alone can do 3 things. When they come together, they're going to do 15 things. They're not going to do 8. And they're going to do it in such a higher level of functionality that other people around them will pick up on that positive energy, and it is infectious and it is motivational.
Yes, that's brilliant. I'm just taking notes because it's that good. So, and I want to be able to remember all this conversation later.
I
So,
know I'm saying a lot. I'm saying a lot.
no, 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 and that's good. I mean, because it's good to have a lot, because we need to be able to be clear on that, and that really is a good way of defining what successful relationships look like and how to really break it down. And it's about addressing their needs and how we can fulfill them. So that's a brilliant way of putting it. So, and you put up a good point. It's about combining those skill sets, so and into a form of collaboration, whether it's a JV partnership, an affiliate partnership, or even a business partnership. Those are the 3 ways I know. There might be others, but those are the 3 main ones. But those collaborations are key, because you can take, you each bring your strengths to the table, and hopefully the other person can complete you by, their strengths, or, fill in your weaknesses, and that you all have similar common ground of goals, as well as the similar common focus of the target market.
Yeah.
And when you can combine all those, then oh my gosh, then you can, like you said, set yourself apart from your competition.
And the possibilities are infinite. My original business, I was infinity life coaching, simply because in life, the possibilities are infinite if you're informed and you're energized. And that's the other thing. We learn things from people, and we also get the energy. We absorb their energy. That's why I changed my business name to Synergy, because we got a whole
Sweet.
lot of potential. We have potential alone, but we have even more potential together.
No, that's awesome. So yeah, and synergy. Can you kind of define what synergy is?
Yes, it's the physical force of energy, and that can be emotional, physical, or mental, because we have 3 different kinds of energy that occurs when people come together and they work together, not just around each other, but they actually combine their volition. It's the energy and the force that happens as a manifestation of that unification.
Awesome. Um, sorry, like I said, I'm giving a chance. I'm giving our audience a chance to also process this, because
It's a
it's a
lot.
mouthful. So let me ask you this. You mentioned the different 3 energies, right? The 3
Yeah.
energies.
Yes.
Um, could you talk a little bit more about those 3 energies and just what they are, the meanings of each one?
Yes. The mental energy that we create within ourselves with our own thoughts is the source of our emotional energy. The emotional energy is the direct cause of the physical manifestation that we do need to have force of motion. So when we talk about mental energy, it's the power of our thoughts that are going to be the source of what we do as we go through the emotional process of responding to those thoughts. Those include thoughts and ideas and focus, just in general, because we have all kinds of stimulation going on around us. It's what our mind, mindful is conscientious, but it's also subconscious. So we're proactively choosing what we fuel our subconscious with, that we are going to emotionally react to. We can be emotionally proactive, but not if our mind isn't already engaged, very proactively engaged. So, as a reaction to our thoughts, our emotional energy says, okay, we got things to do in the world. We have to have the energy to want to do them. Our feelings include our desires, they include our fears, they include our personal values, things that are going to be the direct cause that our actions are the effect of. And then our physical energy is the natural strength and force and endurance that allows us to continue to perform the manifestation of our feelings.
Perfect. So physical energy is the strength and endurance, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely have lots of that.
We,
So,
you know what the truth is, we have more than we realize. Most of
yeah.
the time, we're just unaware of our full potential. And that's the key to getting this thing going.
Hmm. Okay, we might have you talk about that next. But 1 second, I want to back up for a second. Um, Trying to like figure out the best way to phrase this. So when we were talking about the feelings and desires, which energy was that one? I'm just trying to
It's
review that.
emotional. That's the
Emotional.
very raw source of our actions.
So they define our actions, right?
Yes.
And I keep telling my son that we're in control of our actions, our attitudes, our beliefs, our values, but we're also in control of how we react to
Yeah,
things. Because
absolutely.
um, it is so easy to blame others and point fingers. Um,
So easy.
It's so easy. It's less likely for us to sit there and say, "Oh, you own the piece of it, the part that we're to blame," because we
Right.
all, it. If you make a mistake, it's not always all on one shoulders. And I keep telling my own staff and as well as my students, it says, when you're a leader in working with a leader, um, one of the things I always tell people is that it takes two to make a mistake. So you have to own the piece of that mistake yourself and be willing to admit that mistake and figure out ways to fix that.
Yeah,
So and because let's face it, we're an imperfect world and I said we're human beings. We're going to make mistakes. So
right.
it's all about how you react to the situation and
Exactly.
how you correct it.
But what I
Right?
always tell people, yes, absolutely. But the most important element of that is for someone to understand that there is no neutral energy. There's positive and there's negative. Well, a lot of people have really blinded themselves with the wrong belief that, well, I don't care. So therefore I'm not accountable. I'm not participating because I've disconnected. I don't care. Honey, that's negative energy. There's no such thing as neutral absence of energy. It's either positive or it's negative. Absence of positive is by default, by definition, negative energy.
Right. And you don't want to be in that I because you know how you see the teenagers especially say, I don't care, young
Right.
kids, because they're still figuring themselves out, right?
Right. Right.
They don't know their roles and responsibilities completely yet. That's something that an adult has to help define them for them.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
takes time when
Very
you're
much.
working in a business relationship. You have to understand that it's okay to make mistakes as long
Yes,
as
it
you
is.
learn from them and as long as you own that mistake and then figure out ways to fix it. And I'll be
Mhm.
honest, some of those mistakes are not always fixable.
Right.
So,
Completely
yeah,
fixable.
most of them aren't completely fixable, but some are not. And
Right.
so there's a time when you have to learn to be willing to let go of that option and just not hold that baggage in your mind
Right.
and don't let that affect your emotional well-being. I mean,
Right.
that's just sometimes you just have to let it go, like in the song. So
Yeah,
so
definitely.
yeah. So that's good to know that. I just had to bring that up because it just was a very good point. And so because like I said, we're going to have um because our feelings and our emotions, both in
Mhm.
our mental health and our physical energy of endurance, it's all plays in everything out that we do.
Everything.
Um, and so, like I said, you have to, and you brought up a good point, being aware of our full potential. So, in order to, I was trying to figure out where it was going to lead to that one. I had a thought, and you never know; those thoughts can come and go very quickly. So I'm going to try to bring it together here. But the having the mental, the emotional, and the physical energy, which
Yeah,
is creating that whole person approach. Um, when you're aware of that and you're aware of what your endurance level is, your strength, your emotional feelings, and how it defines your reactions,
yeah.
um, and then you're controlling your thoughts. And when you control your thoughts and ideas,
Mhm.
um, that helps you determine how you react to things. And then you and you're gonna have to figure out the best way to what you need to focus on to and your focus your energy on,
Right,
and um, then and build endurance for the things that you can control. I
right.
think that, and then once you're fully, and what I'm trying to say is, once you're fully aware of that energy, and once you're fully
Mhm.
aware of what you're able to control and stuff like that, and where you want to put your focus, is that when you realize your full potential? Or how does that look? I mean, am I off the mark at all, or am I getting close to the mark? I
Well,
think
you're
that was the
definitely
question.
okay. When we're talking about your potential simply in raw energy and how to say in English, effectuarse, manifestation, okay, then we have an unlimited potential as human beings. We're not like animals. But when we're talking about where you channel that, your full potential, the bottom line is everybody has certain skill sets and functionalities that they are naturally better at than others. And so that's why I tell people you need to know your personality because you have four levels of functionality that most people don't know. Even if you know your MBTI letters, because that's what I've studied for many years, you don't necessarily know your functionality. Everybody does everything, Marie. Anybody can do anything. You need to keep them proportionate to what your nature is. You need to make sure you do your dominant function for 9 to 10 hours a day. That means you cannot do your inferior function for more than an hour and a half a day and be healthy. Okay. What happens is a lot of people do their lower functions. And so what they're doing is they're draining their emotional source, their emotional strength, then their physical is completely depleted or it becomes very reactive instead of proactive. So when people know the activities based on their personal nature of their personality, then they know to say to the people around them, okay, look, I just want you to know, okay, I really need to do what I'm good at. If I'm doing something else that is not my nature, you need to know that it's going to be very difficult for me to do. So I'm maybe going to take more time to do it than another person of a different personality. Or I just have to, when I'm done, restore myself. I need to recover a little bit. I'm going to need to take a time out just to get myself back up to the 100% capacity because it's a lower function for me. A lot of times when you have the good quality energy, when you wake up, you have a healthy mindset, you have an emotional endurance, you have a physical strength, if you're still doing functionalities that are not in harmony with your true nature, you will by nature be depleted of that strength and energy. And people really do appreciate it when you tell them, okay, first of all, I'm not going to be good at this as good as other people, but I'm going to try and I'm going to give it my best. And when I'm done, I really am going to need to just, sleep. Okay. And people are
Yeah,
like, okay, no problem.
I get that. So there's a time where sleep just is what you need rather than focusing on things that aren't as relevant to what you need to do. So I keep telling my team and my I always play into people's strengths. And I
Yes.
always find, like, when I'm working with somebody, whether it's a client or whatever, I find out their strengths. I fill in the things that are not. And then I myself will outsource to people that I realize video editing is not my strength.
Right.
and I
Right.
outsource it. I realize that copying and pasting 50 million emails to somebody is just not my strength. It drains me. It's if
Uh,
you find a task that drains you, I keep telling people you either outsource it to a software or to a
yes.
person who I
Right.
actually found somebody who geeks out over some of the things like the daily tasks that I cannot stand.
Right.
So she and I are going to be getting together, and I'm going to be outsourcing some of my lead generation to her because it drains me. It
Right.
doesn't like if I'm just copying and pasting. If I'm just interacting with somebody on chat, it's one thing. If it's a conversation, that doesn't drain me. That energizes me. So,
Right. Right.
so that's just an example. Like you've got to figure out which tasks drain you and which don't, and outsource it either to a software or to a human. But if you do it to a software, bring in the human touch to it because
Right.
they can't replace you. I'm sorry.
Right.
So
Right.
that's my added tip. And I think that's really important that we
Mm.
know what is natural for us. I think
And
that is so important.
the it's really important too. The only way that you'll really discover that is by knowing, by asking yourself as you're going through, for example, a personality profile, asking yourself, is that naturally something that you would do? Because a lot of the time, what people answer in their personality profile, or when they go to a therapist or a specialist, they say, well, this is what I do. Well, this is what I do. The question is, how much of what you currently do that you're responding to right now is your true nature. Your nature never changes. Your behavior is not your personality. So when I ask people questions, sometimes I have to say, let's say you were on a stranded island and there was no one around. And the only way that you could get your food and clothing and shelter would be doing things that give you, that create happiness and joy inside of you. What would you be doing if money didn't exist? It was all entirely about what would make you happy, and you didn't have to have people there who were pressuring you, who were manipulating you, who were guilt tripping you, who were doing all of these things that m- make you do things that aren't true to you. And they literally have to say, wow, I have no idea. Give me a couple weeks and I'll get back to you. Because how much of what people do currently in their daily life is true to their nature? I'd say maybe 30 to 40% because of the society that we live in, because of the technology, because of the capitalism, because of all of the things that undermine our honesty, not only with others, but with ourselves.
That's a valid, really good point. And then you mentioned something about personality types, and I want to touch on that before we go into goals and accomplishments, because I
Okay.
think those are just as important.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but like I said, we're going to be rolling with this. If see something, I am going to just ask you to dive into it.
Thank
Now, from
you.
this one, we might not have time. That might be a whole different topic for this particular one. So we might do a
Okay.
whole show based on personality types. But can you kind of give like a snapshot of the four different types of main personality types and what a quick
Yes.
description of what they mean? And
Yes.
then what is the method you use to determine that? So we can kind of touch on that a little bit.
Yes. There are four dispositions. Since there are 16 personalities, each disposition has four versions of it, but primarily the four dispositions are sensory judgers. They seek responsibility and they're very much about discipline. Sensory perceivers are very much about action, getting things done and doing it themselves. Intuitive thinkers are about being intelligent and intuitive, creative and ingenious. And then intuitive feelers are the people who inspire and motivate and love and support. I liken them to, some people are like bones, some people are like muscles, some people are like heart, and some people are like brains. Which one of those things in the body, you know what, we could just go ahead and go without? None of them. They are essentially vital to the function of the other three. Okay, so whatever it is that you're thinking, well, we could go ahead and get a replacement. Yeah, but it's not going to be as good as the genuine article. And so when people know that I'm one of those four principles of duty or action or motivation or ingenuity, those things are going to be appreciated And then the way that you determine them is you pick out the 4 letters of your personality, which then can be actually 4 different dichotomies. And yeah, that's how we determine 16 personalities. But you know what, honey? We got all that on the internet. All you do is type in MBTI. But what you really do need to know is when you're answering the questions, I can give you 12 questions and that will give you your 4 letters. But it really is about knowing how much of what you currently do is who you truly are. There's your social energy, that's your 1st letter. There's your focus primarily, that's your 2nd letter. There's how you make decisions, that's your 3rd letter. And then there's how you carry out the decisions that you make, that's your 4th letter.
Brilliant. No, I'm glad you explained it like that because those personality type, I mean, I know we've always I did Meyer-Briggs growing up, and I did a couple of others over the years. Because I even took psychology and sociology, and I'm sure we had tests like that growing up as well.
Yeah.
But just because you take those tests doesn't mean you understand it. And so
Mhm.
that's why I wanted to have you give us like that quick summary of it, because I think it's important that people understand what it is and what
Yeah.
it's meant for. Um,
Yeah.
because like I said, those things can be kind of confusing for some people, and I just wanted to make
For
sure.
most
So
people. Yeah, for
yeah,
most people they are.
yeah. So then, and what was the software method? Are we going to be able to share that website with everybody later on?
Oh, yes. What I do, because when I offer that service to my clients and to my customers, just to students in general, I have the process of you need to take the test, but then we also need a dialogue after that test. And you need to have access to me during that test because you know what? If you're asking yourself a question, you go, you know what? That question itself could mean 4 different things to me. What context did you mean that question in? Yeah, I definitely offer that service. And most of the time, as a coach, when I'm doing one on one coaching, once a person understands their nature, about 75% of their other questions about self actualization are answered right there because they understand, not just know what it means, but they know exactly what to do with that information in a pragmatic way.
And brilliant, and because that's really what it is.
It is.
Um, you really kind of have to know how to kind of apply it. And
Absolutely.
if you don't know how to apply it, it makes no sense to take those tests, to be quite honest.
No
Uh,
value whatsoever.
yeah. So if you're just doing it just to figure out your personality type, that's great. But you need to know, for example, how does it relate to those energies of how does it relate to um how you function on a with your daily tasks, like
And if you
what
want me to give
energizes
you
you.
a real quick
Yeah.
overview, I can give you like a 2 minute overview of what that is too. And when people
Yeah.
have their 4 letters, the most important thing is the 4 activities that everybody has to do are the 2 middle letters. Okay, there's S and N as your 2nd letter. There's T or F as your 3rd letter. Everybody does sensory, everybody does intuitive, everybody does thinking, and everybody does feeling. You just need to determine which one of those 4 activities you need to do most, all the way down to the least. So of those 4 letters, what do you do first? What do you do second? What do you do third? And what do you do fourth? And it's important for you to know that the one you do first needs to be 60% of your 16-hour day. That's 9 to 10 hours. Your second level is your auxiliary function. You need to do that for 20% of your 16-hour day. You need to do it for 3 to 4 hours. The third level is your tertiary function. That's 15 to 20% of your day. That's only 2 to 3 hours. And your fourth level is your inferior function. You need to do that for no more than 5% of your waking day. You need to stop after a little over an hour doing that activity.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yes, very much.
Okay. So good to know some of this stuff. You see, I mean, I took psychology, but then of course that was probably 30 years ago.
It's changed just a little,
Probably,
maybe.
I've forgotten probably quite a lot of it over the years, but
And
some
it's
of it
always
just,
in theory.
well, yeah, and a lot of that is theory, but a lot of it is more of you practice what you know, and you then. But
Right.
this stuff is a slightly different, and it has changed over the years. So things
Yeah.
are going to pivot and change. Just keep that in mind. And speaking of which, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how do you sign a good. I mean, let's figure out a good game plan of how to, because when you're in business and you know that you have, let's say you've taken your personality test, they've talking to you,
Yep.
um or somebody, wherever that is, they figured things out for themselves. They figured out what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. And they decided, okay, so I need to outsource this so that I can, so because that drains my energy. And now I've got to focus on this.
Yeah.
So now that we've gotten all this figured out, we're kind of giving this, right now, we're giving our audience a roadmap, so to speak.
Right.
So, what would you recommend would be a good game plan for them to achieve their goals? Do you have any specific, I mean, I don't know if you have a specific, like some people do,
Formula.
yeah, they have, some people have a specific formula, and I don't know what your formula looks like. So let's kind of dive into what your formula of goal setting is real quick. So,
Okay, the most important thing is to have your finish line, because I say it's like a race in life. It's very
yep,
important to have the very specific ultimate goal. You need to have milestones and rewards along the way. You need to have at least 4 places where you've basically finished, crossed the finish line in a minor way en route to the ultimate destination. And it's very important that your rewards, what you're giving yourself as an affirmation and a confirmation of your success, does not undermine the progress that you have made. You also need a support system that you can, like you said, reach out to, outsource, whatever. But there is going to be times when you are emotionally drained, when you are mentally drained, when you're physically drained, when you have the source of the resources to go ahead and say, I really do just need to get myself back up to 100% functionality. But then you also have to have the maximization of your own emotions. When you know how to identify the strength that comes from fear or from anger or from anxiety, and you could say, okay, now I got something going on inside of me. Hold on, I'll be right back. Let me process what that is so that en route to what I have to get to ultimately, you know what, I'm going to make sure that I am utilizing and channeling that energy, because that energy isn't going to go away. You
right,
need to go ahead and maximize it. And then also one of the things that I have is the formula. Yes, you should not go more than 25% outside of your personality function zone, because you have to create a habit within 21 days. You literally have to turn your goal into a behavior pattern, and especially if it's not part of your personality, you turn it into a habit by repeating it for 21 days. And if that's too difficult for you, you need to reduce it not more than 20% different from what you are currently doing. And if you have a certain personality, when you create checklists daily, you need to have a proportion of 1 to 3 on everything that you do to create a new habit. One thing that you automatically naturally do, one thing that, you know what, you kind of do, but you kind of forget to do it sometimes. And then one thing that you never do. Every time you go through that checklist and you confirm your success on a daily basis, you are then rewiring not only your mindset, but your behavior pattern. So you need to have those tools and resources en route to your destination and have it as a mindful lifestyle that will facilitate your success.
that's brilliant. And I keep saying to people that, some of us older folks that are in the 50 plus crowd, and that includes me, I'm 53, going to be 54 next month, hard to believe. But long story short, if you're in that age range and you've had a habit that's been ingrained for a long time, then
Yes.
sometimes you need to take a little longer to
Yes.
do it. So
Yes.
21 days, if you can't create that habit in 21 days, don't get mad at yourself. Give yourself that extra longer time,
Yes.
because
Yes.
the goal for you is to create the new patterns, not so much focus so much on, I mean, that you want to focus more on the outcome, not always in the timeline frame.
No. Right. Right.
Right. Because I just want to make sure that's clear to our audience, because let's face it, even if I don't care if you're 20s or 15 or whatever, if you've had a goal, if you've had a pattern that's been around for a long time, just give yourself that grace. Don't worry about the timeline of the 21 days. Just focus on creating that regular new habit so you
Right.
can retrain yourself.
Well, and
Because
it's
yeah,
actually good. It's actually good if you don't get the 21 days first, because, and this is the thing that makes people crazy, is that you
right.
can do something for 20 days and then you miss the 21st day. And well, great. Now it's not a habit. I got to start all the way over at the beginning again. That's actually a good thing because the more
Yeah.
you do something, the more natural it genuinely becomes for you.
Mhm. Right. Sorry. Gotta take those drink breaks. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
timing is everything. So
really is.
funny, and I'm just saying that because we were just talking about that, and I'm so glad we talked about those patterns, and I'm so glad we talked about the fact that and it's all about taking that pressure off yourself.
Yeah.
Focus more, like I said, on the outcomes, and you about making sure you've got that new pattern, and making sure that new pattern aligns with your values and your goals and what you're trying to accomplish. I
Yes.
mean, would you
Yes.
agree? I mean, is that something that's you want to touch on that real quick?
Absolutely, because the truth is, our personality is not just about what we do, it's about how we think and how we feel. And so I use the example like of the body, the bone and the heart. Well, a bone wouldn't say to the heart, you need to be more firm, you need to be more hard. What's going to happen if your heart solidifies? Or a muscle saying to the brain, you could get bigger and bigger and bigger in the brain. Honey, that's called encephalitis and you die. Now, the fact is, when you know your true nature and you know what's good and healthy for you, that could be an entirely different value system. Honey, someone's inferior function is the polar opposite of someone else's dominant function. They're both absolutely vital. The only difference is you are going to be resistant to one and very responsive to the other. And nature made it that way for a reason, because we need enough of this, and we need enough of this, and we need enough of this, and we need to be done in this way. You absolutely have to stay 100% true to you in order for nature to manifest and display and function in the best possible way for everybody who's participating in this program.
Right. You're spot on. And we talked a little bit about defining your success earlier, but I wanted to ask you about some as far as in terms of accomplishments. Um, could you talk about how people need to help with relationships to in order to um, be themselves and find fulfillment?
Yeah,
Does that
there's
make
really,
sense? Yeah.
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. We're talking about trust and appreciation. Really, it's about honesty. My father said something to me. I was a very young girl when he said this. He said, honey, got to be careful. Don't be lying. And I'm like, I'm not lying. Well, of course I was. And he said, when you lie to strangers, you miss out on amazing opportunities. When you lie to friends who love you and your family, you die alone. When you start lying to yourself, you got no one left. You may as well pack it up. It's all over for you. It's about being honest with people and being very open with the idea of there are just going to be some things that we're not going to agree on, but we absolutely have to be authentic at all times. And one of the things that I said to my husband shortly after having our first child, I said, baby, I'm going to give you a get out of jail free card. That is, I'm sorry once removed. Because a lot of times when people say I'm sorry to each other, what they mean is, I'm sorry you're having an emotional situation where you're very unhappy right now, but I'm not necessarily sorry about what I did. Should you say you're sorry to someone because they're having pain, but you really don't think that what you did was wrong? You have to be able to say, I'm sorry that I'm not sorry about what I did. I want to be sorry, but I genuinely don't think that what I did was wrong. You have to have that authenticity with people. And you can say to them, I really do care very much about your feelings. Let's work on what I can do, what we can do together to create that synergy again as a positive. I hate saying agree to disagree, but that's what it comes down to when you say, I'm an INTP, you're an ESFJ. Honey, we're just going to disagree because my dominant function is your inferior function, and that's okay. So, how can we take care of each other personally while still figuring out how our difference in perspective or even in priorities or in genuine value systems, we can say, then we're just going to go ahead and reconcile our differences with the positive emotional energy that we maintain because we have a sincere interest in the well-being of each other.
Brilliant. No, that's perfect. And you said that you wanted to talk about a gift for our audience
Yeah.
that we'll share the link when after the show, and we'll be posting it when it's available because it's a work in progress, right? So it's okay. I keep telling people you don't have to be perfect in everything that you do. You just have to
Right.
show up, be yourself, be
Yeah.
genuine, and just let people know you're in, what's going on. I mean, that's just sort of the way it goes. So,
Exactly.
real quick, would you like to share the gift and of course, when you'll let me know when it's a green light to share the link, of course, to the audience. So, in
Yeah.
the meantime, take it away and tell us what did they win by being on the show today?
Yes, well, actually, what I've done is I've completed a workbook. It's just called the Self Help Workbook because there's a lot of self help books out there and they give a lot of information, but they don't really give you an activity that you can
Right.
use in a practical way to implement. My book is 15 chapters with 23 different projects, and not everybody is going to read it cover to cover. What you can do is you can look at the different chapters and say, ooh, that's something I want to learn about. That chapter has the overview of the principles, but then it will have a project that you can use in a practical way to understand what it means in your daily life. And so I'm also doing the recording of it. My producer is having some technical difficulties, but if you go to, excuse me, um, synergyrelationshipcoaching.com, you can go ahead and download the book, the ebook, and then you can go ahead and email me at synergyrelationshipcoaching@gmail.com and request the MP3 of me reading it, just the recording of it. But you do need to mention that you heard it through Marie, and that you're interested in getting that free gift, because usually it costs $75. I can go ahead and give people a discount if I want through my website. I can give it to them as a gift for free if they want, but there are a couple different things going on technically and with my publisher and with my producer. Just send an email if you want to the Synergy Relationship Coaching at gmail.com, and I'll go ahead and give it to you personally directly instead of having to go through my website and maybe deal with different glitches that you shouldn't have to at this point.
We appreciate that. And boy,
Yeah.
do we know about the glitches today, Gabrielle. I think everything, learning new software and dealing with all the tech gremlins. Oh my gosh. I have a gremlin for everything. Sound, internet, video, fatty fingers, you name it. If there's a
Yeah.
gremlin, if there's an issue, a gremlin's
Yeah.
behind it. That's my story, and we'll stick to it. But anyway, it has been such a pleasure. I cannot believe how
Likewise.
fast the time has gone by. And I know that you have tons of stuff to do.
Always.
So, but that was a really good definition of defining your success and talking about the personality types and building those authentic relationships and
Yes,
goal setting.
definitely.
I've never heard it quite described like that. So, but it was spot on. And a lot of what you taught are things that I've been teaching my business students. So,
Yeah.
and a lot of maybe not necessarily in the in-depth way you did,
Right.
but
Substantively, it's the same information.
yeah, it is because I
Yeah.
mean it's all about playing into your strengths and then working with people who have strengths that you don't so that you can be better together. I always keep telling
Together.
my business partner is Mark Hunter and he's phenomenal. And I keep telling him that we're better together because his strengths are not mine and my
Right.
strengths are not his.
Right.
So when you and that's great for any relationship, whether it's business or whether it's personal or
Yeah.
whatever which spectrum it falls under. But the long story short of it, always play into your strengths because when you're playing into your strengths, you're going to be energized by what you do
Yes.
and you're going to be more likely to succeed. And
Yeah.
people are going to see that passion and that natural, authentic you. When you're
Yeah.
doing something you don't like and it drains you, let that task go, whatever it
Yeah.
is, and give it
Yep.
to somebody else. Either it's to a software or to a human being.
Right.
And I can tell you, softwares do not replace human beings. You still
No,
need
they
to
don't.
find that personal touch somewhere in there. But at the same time, they do help automate your business in ways that save you time. So there's that quality of
And
time that,
money. They
yeah,
save you money
time and
too.
money. Yeah, because I mean, you know, people do cost money as well as software, and
Right.
sometimes it's cheaper to go through a software. But like I said, make sure you humanize whatever you decide to use. And oh my gosh, just remember to be you. I mean, yeah,
Really. Really,
really
and be
play with
and be
your
honest
strengths.
about it,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
honest about it because people appreciate and respect
yeah,
when you say it. You don't have to be aggressive or
right.
defensive. Be honest, but respectful.
Exactly. Yeah, and like I said, don't be like you said, don't be defensive or offensive. You really just want to put it in the most gentlest way possible
And
so that
tact,
it
tactful.
yeah, tactful, exactly. Just don't say it so it's pointing fingers. It's
Right.
more of let's find a positive outcome solution
There
focus.
you go.
I
Perfect.
think that's the best way of putting it for right now
I
that I
agree.
can think of. I
That's
don't
very
always
well
think.
said.
Thank you. I don't always think on the fly sometimes, but when I do, I nail it. So anyway, but oh my gosh, I can't believe it's the end of the show and you've given so much. We just literally recapped everything. And before we go, I want you to give one quick action tip to our audience that they can apply in their business. And after hearing all this, what is the best? Do you want them to goal set or figure out what it is that is their strengths? I mean, what do you recommend in this case?
Change the way you look at people and see every single person that you interact with as a potential I was going to say landmark, but as a potential something very treasure chest, as a potential treasure chest for you to recognize and appreciate. That will change the way that you approach them, because what you might have seen before as a weakness, when you see what they have as a potential strength, just when it's manifested in a different way, then you can say, wow, I wonder how many amazing things I can create with this person. Change the way you see and interpret what people are and say and do.
Perfect. Interpret. And it's all about finding what their strength is and
Yeah,
appreciating that strength as a
yeah,
human being and how you guys can work together
together.
in playing each other's strengths. So that's a great way to end today's show. So thank you for that wonderful
Thank
extra tip.
you, Emily.
Oh my gosh, Gabrielle, we'll have you come back again. So, and maybe even talk more about personality types and stuff. I think we have some future shows in store for the audience. So
Okay,
anyway,
that would be great.
and if anyone has any questions, just drop them in the chat. I'll be happy to make sure we funnel them to our guest Gabrielle, who'll be happy to answer them. Right,
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you, Marie.
twisting the arm a little bit, but I didn't have to twist her too hard, so that's always good. But we're always happy to answer any questions anyone has, even after the show. So definitely make sure to check out her website, and let me see if I can get her to say that again for me, so I don't butcher it. What is
Synergy
your
synergyrelationshipcoaching.com,
or her email at which is the same thing at gmail.com, right?
gmail.com. Yep.
We'll simplify it. So anyway, oh my gosh, thank you, Gabrielle Cardona, for I hope I got that pronounced correctly.
Yes,
Cardona?
you did.
Okay, good deal. So making sure thank you for sharing so many valuable tips to help our audience grow themselves and their business on the Marketing Mindset Mastery Radio Show. You did drink through a fire hose today, but hopefully you found some really good tips on how to define your success and really take your business to the next level and this is good for us to start reviewing things now as we get ready to hit the next year in the next couple months. I can't believe we're at the November of 2021. By the way, happy anniversary to my husband, Kelly Mason. He and I celebrated 19 years on November 2nd, just 2 days ago. And I can't believe it's been 19 years, but it's been an amazing journey with you, and can't wait for the next 19 years, see what it brings. But anyway, I just want to put the plug in there for that. So, want to encourage you to take advantage of the offers that we're going to be offering at libertyvirtualsolutions.com as well. And one of the things, if you go to libertyvirtualsolutions.com shop, We have amazing merchandise, including backpacks, hats, etc., mugs, as you can see. Hopefully, I can show it because I never know if I can get it quite into the video. So let's see if it's behaving itself today. Yay, it's behaving itself today. Okay, so you can see it. We have some, if it's going to have a slight different change on there soon. I'm going to be upgrading it soon. But in the meantime, the backpacks are on sale for $45. Every back school backpack that's sold during the 21 to 22 school year, a $5 gift card will be going to a lucky teacher in the US. And whoever is purchasing that could even mention that teacher's name to me, and I'll be happy. And with their way of sending the address, and I'll be happy to send that. That is our way of giving back to the community that I taught for 20 years, and I want to be able to give back to our school community. And then, really, that's pretty much it. So, join us next week for another exciting episode for great tips and ideas and how to make your marketing and mindset work for you. Our guest next week will be providing more tips on how to set up your business for success. We stream live every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, as long as our internet gremlins and sound gremlins and software gremlins are behaving. If they're not, then we'll record it and then upload it to YouTube and all the platforms. But anyway, make sure you go to our YouTube channel and hit that just like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification button so that you don't miss any more of our shows. And until next time, hopefully Pliny will be with us next week as well. And I'm your host, Marie Mason, and our guest, Gabrielle. We're saying goodbye from now for the Marketing Mindset Mastery. And that ends this week's show. So until then, y'all have a good one. So let me take care of one thing.